Hello, my name is Omololu Fagunwa. I am a PhD student at the University of Huddersfield. I'll be talking today about food fiber and gut microbiota. The title before me is what I term Tying Gut. I'll be talking about the importance of fiber and how it helps our gut microbiota. For introduction, let me point to you that our gut microbiota determine the state of health which we find ourselves in. So we have many factors that help us progress from disease state to healthy state. And what the diagram I've showed here is just to let us know how our gut microbiota affects our health. A reference man, average man of 70 kg, has about 3.8 times 10 raised to power 13 bacteria in the body. That is trillions of millions of bacteria in the body. And this figure is very similar to the one found in human cells. So if you look at the bacteria we've got in our body as an average human being or man with about 70 kg, it's just about the same number of bacteria we've got in our body as the same number of human cells we have. If you're talking about red blood cell, any kind of cells at all, if you look at the number, it's very similar to the number of bacteria which we've got in our body. The gut microbiota is influenced by a number of things, such as genetic makeup, genetics, also the host physiology. What I mean by this is maybe the age of the host. An infant, for instance, has very low diversity in terms of microbiota for an infant compared to an adult. And the same thing as we age, the gut microbiota get depleted in terms of diversity. So age of the host determines, likewise state of health, maybe there's a presence of a particular disease, condition, or the absence, as well as stress and some other physiological components that affect the microbiota. Apart from genetics, physiology, there is another aspect which is environmental factor, and this includes living condition. If you live in a clean environment, for instance, the amount of and the diversity of microbiota, the bacteria in your body, will be a little bit different from someone that lives in maybe an unkept environment. For instance, people living in urban and rural area, the bacteria they've got inside them are quite different. Also, medication have influenced the diversity of bacteria in the body. Someone that is being placed, for instance, on antibiotics, we have reduced number in terms of diversity of bacteria in the body, because the antibiotics, though it's actually being used for treatment of a particular condition, will be affecting the bacteria at the same time, and some other medications. What I've got here is just for the sake of differentiating between, we all hear about probiotics. There's difference between probiotics, prebiotics, and symbiotics. Probiotics are live bacteria and yeast that, when it's administered in a viable form, has adequate amount that is beneficial to human beings. In most cases, what we see in our food supplements, yogurt, and all that are probiotics. What about prebiotics? Prebiotics are kind of substrates. They are kind of what microorganisms can add on so that they can confer a benefit to us. What do I mean by this? There are things like fiber. There are things like carbohydrates that the microbiota can, this bacteria and yeast can easily access so that they will confer benefit to us. What is symbiotics? It's kind of mixture between prebiotics, the substrates such as fiber, and the probiotics such as what you've got in your yogurt, in other food supplements, lactobacillus, and the rest. So fiber on its own, prebiotics now, prebiotics, fiber on its own is pro-health because there are various studies that have been done, and there is a systematic review. There are systematic review to see all the studies that have been done on fiber to see are they really pro-health or not. So I think it's established for that fiber is pro-health. It reduces the risk of developing heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, and even all-cause mortality. So what are the fibers we're talking about? You can get them from fruits and vegetables, from nuts, from legumes. These food substances contain lots of fiber. So we need to understand that fiber don't feed us directly. They directly feed our bacteria, our gut bacteria. When we eat fiber, we don't derive that direct benefit from them. We derive indirect benefit from fiber. So what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that when we eat fiber, any kind of, especially indigestible fiber, because they are not easily digestible by our own gut system. So what it does is these fiber have been acted on by bacteria. They have been digested by bacteria, and when they have been digested by bacteria, they produces a lot of chemicals and other biomolecules that we benefit from. For instance, short chain fatty acid, which has a lot of benefit, butyric acid, propionic acid, and some of all these short chain fatty acids. So in other words, when we eat fiber, indirectly they give us the profile health benefit to us, but directly bacteria feed on them, and the products from the bacteria is what benefits us. So what kind of fiber help most? We don't fully understand this, but there is hints that fibers that contain fructans and galacto-oligosaccharides, they correlate with abundance of bifidobacteria, lactobacillus in fecal. So another question would be, how much fiber do I need to consume? I think there is a study that said less than 5 grams fiber is still enough for fermentation to take place. That means if you consume less than 5 grams of fiber, they will still be useful for the bacteria in the gut. You can consume more than that. And the question we now need to ask ourselves, which is the basis of this presentation and my work at Huddersfield, is what class of bacteria should we consider? We should look at fiber-loving class of microbes. What do I mean by this? We know of our lactobacillus, we know of our bivid, but beyond the popular lactobacillus you get in your yogurt, beyond the bifidobacterium you get in your yogurt and some other food supplements, there are some other class or genera of bacteria which are very useful. Example of them for the bacteria is the bacterials. Bacterials are very, very useful. They are probiotics on their own, though you can't readily get them in store. And that is where fiber eating fiber, that's where it comes in, because you can't readily get them as probiotics in stores. But if you feed your gut well, they can replicate these bacteria in large amounts to confer health. Also, I would like to point out that apart from bacteria, another fiber-loving class is Lactobacillus. Is a kind of order, which a family rather, is a family which I'm going to talk about in a minute. There are lots of fiber-loving class or general, but I will only focus on these two. So if we look at this figure here, this is my actually my PhD result, one of my results. I put this up here for just to show us example of the importance of fiber or the benefits of fiber. A Western diet will look somewhat like this. If Western diet would look something like this, with high sugar, high fat, high meat protein, with low fiber and all that. A prudent diet, which has mixed of, sometimes it has sugars and some fat, but it's just been prudent in that there is fiber, there's balance of everything. Will look somewhere like this. And what I did in my study is that I had two class or two groups of people or two groups of samples, one from the Western diet and the other from vegetarian, which the presumption here is that Western diet contains high fat, high sugar, and vegetarian diet contains high fiber. Actually, in my studies, what I did is the participant filled out food diary for 7 days. So from the food diary, I have been able to analyze what people are taking and see the amount of fiber in it. So when I classify based on Western diet and vegetarian diet, what I mean in other words is vegetarian diet for real, high fiber, Western diet are low fiber from the participant that participated in my studies. And we get to know this from the food diary they fill. So from this result, I mentioned that Lactobacillus family, fiber-loving family are the kind of bacteria which we want in our gut, really. They are present there, but at the same time, in Western diet, it appears from my result here that it's really low. So the good bacteria, if you look at the green lines, that's for the vegetarian diet, you can see lots of them falls on the green, and very minimum falls on the Western diet. So when you looking at from 0 to 100% being the highest, you see that majority falls above for vegetarian, they fall above 50%, majority of them. While Western diet is just, in most cases, is just about 20-30% for the Lactobacillus family of bacteria. And from this family, things like Bacterium rectale, Rosburia, which we get from some yogurt, Lactospira are the kind of bacteria which we get from them. So these are kind of family of good bacteria or probiotics. Another result which I would like to show you is that apart from the Lactobacillus, which have shown that high fiber tends to give more of that family of bacteria, is another probiotic called the bacterials. So I looked at the general really, and what we can see here is that For instance, the Buteri, Cynomonas, Alistives, and some of these good classified probiotics. I put it as classified because they are not things that you can easily get in stores in form of yogurts or bio drinks. But what we can do is to have high fiber or get good fiber in our body. The bacteria hat on the fiber, it produces this um, bacteria in good quantity that will be beneficial to our health. Again, here it shows that vegetarian of high fiber contains lots of these classified probiotics. But beyond eating fiber, another thing which I found out from my study is that we need to watch salt intake as well. So it's not just getting the good fiber in there, expecting that there'll be good bacteria or probiotics in right quantity or large quantity. Salt can affect the amount and the type of bacteria as well. This is one of those things we've been able to get from our studies. For instance, what I did here is I classify, still using food diary from the Western and vegetarian. Because people consume salt, from the food diary, we were able to know the amount of salt people consume. So we classify them based on low salt, average salt, high salt. 6,000 milligram per day is average salt, recommended salt intake or dietary salt intake for an average human. And people that falls far above the 6,000 milligram or 6 gram, like 10,000, 12,000 are classified under high salt. So when you see high salt, are people that have consumed salt per day up to 10 grams, 12 grams above. And average is around 5,000, 6,000 milligram. Low salt is about 2,000 to 3,000 milligram per day. So what we was able to get here is that people that consume low salt correlates high dietary salt correlates with reduction of these probiotics. When the salt intake is high, probiotics reduces, especially for this class of this family of Lactobacillus. An example of Lactobacillus is Blautia, and we're able to get the same thing from this Blautia, the same thing with other different bacteria from this very family. So salt influence the amount and the type of probiotics you get, despite the fact that you are eating high fiber or you are eating fiber. So that's another thing. Don't just look at the fiber you're taking or trying to take in fiber. At the same time, look at the salt intake as well. So that's that for my little presentation on this occasion of International Microorganism Day. I have been able to tell you that we have fiber helping our gut microbiota, and we should take notice of fiber at the same time of our salt intake. Thank you very much. My name is Omololu, University of Huddersfield.